Kenneth B. Clark was born in Panama in 1914. Kenneth had a sister, and his mother decided that she wanted her family to move to the United States because she was convinced that her children would have better opportunities in the U.S. Kenneth's father worked for the United Fruit Company, known today as Chiquita. He refused to move to the United States, where he said he would be poorly treated and not be able to hold his same job status based solely on the color of his skin. Kenneth's mother and father separated when Kenneth was 5 years old. Kenneth moved with his mother and sister to Harlem. Harlem is where Kenneth and his sister grew up. Kenneth's mother moved to Harlem without her husband, the children's father. When they moved to Harlem, Kenneth's mother worked as a seamstress in a sweatshop to make ends meet. Kenneth's mother was an activist in her own right, and she organized a union and became a shop steward for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. Kenneth and his mother were very close. He later reminisced about her, saying that she, quote, somehow communicated to me the excitement of people doing things together to help themselves. After Kenneth moved to Harlem, much of the ethnic diversity that had previously existed there was no longer. Kenneth's school was predominantly black. Kenneth was trained there to learn a trade, similar to many of his other black male peers in the neighborhood. Kenneth's mother wanted more opportunities for her son and insisted that he be moved to George Washington High School in Upper Manhattan, where he graduated from in 1931. After high school, Kenneth attended Howard University for his bachelor's, which he completed in 1935. While at Howard, Kenneth worked with his mentor, Frances Cecile Sumner. Frances Cecile Sumner was the first African American to receive a doctorate in psychology. Kenneth decided to return to Howard for his master's degree in psychology upon his mentor's urging. He completed his master's in 1936 from Howard University. After Kenneth completed his master's, his mentor encouraged him to attend Columbia University for his doctorate degree in psychology. He also encouraged him to work with another influential mentor, Otto Kleinberg. In 1940, Kenneth was the first African American to earn his PhD in psychology from Columbia University. During the summer of 1941, Kenneth began teaching at the City College of New York. The dean of the Hampton Institute at the same time also asked Dr. Clark to start a department of psychology there. In 1942, Dr. Clark became the first African American to receive tenured full professor status at the City College of New York. Dr. Clark spent the bulk of the rest of his career, particularly in academics, at the City College of New York. He also participated in many different teaching opportunities at colleges around the United States. Dr. Clark also started a psychology department at the Hampton Institute in 1942. In 1961, Dr. Clark won the Spingarn Medal, which was given to him by the NAACP for his contributions to promoting better race relations. In 1966, Dr. Clark was the first African American appointed to the New York State Board of Regents. Dr. Clark was also the first and only African American to be the president of the American Psychological Association. While Kenneth was off to a successful start in his career in psychology, he was also starting a family. In 1938, he married Mamie Phipps, and they had 2 children. They met while they were in graduate school. Dr. Clark and his wife conducted many research projects together. They developed the famously known doll test. The doll test is where African American children were shown a black doll and a white doll. The children were asked what they thought of each doll. The children were also asked questions about how they perceived themselves associated with the dolls and how that may influence them. Dr. Clark was quoted as saying, quote, These children saw themselves as inferior, and they accepted the inferiority as a part of reality. Dr. Clark and his wife's research played a very critical role in the Brown versus Board of Education decision. They played a critical role in challenging the constitutionality of the separate but equal doctrine because their research indicated that it showed actual damage to children who were segregated and violated the equal protection under the 14th Amendment. While Dr. Clark is very well known for he and his wife's doll test research and the impact on desegregation of public schools, Dr. Clark had a great number of accomplishments after this period of his career. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Dr. Clark was very active in the New York City school systems. Dr. Clark accused the school systems of permitting de facto segregation, and because of this, quote, children not only feel inferior, but are inferior in academic achievement. An investigation of Dr. Clark's charges against the New York City school systems was launched, and evidence was found to support his accusations. After the investigation, Dr. Clark was named to lead the Board of Education Commission to ensure integration of New York City schools, a better curriculum, and better facilities for schools that have predominantly black students. In 1962, Dr. Clark organized the Harlem Youth Opportunities Unlimited, otherwise known as Jeru. Jeru was intended to recruit educational experts to reorganize Harlem schools and provide preschool and after-school programs and reduce unemployment among blacks who had already dropped out of school. In 1964, a committee headed by the then Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and part of the Great Society efforts endorsed Dr. Clark's work with Jeru, and President Lyndon B. Johnson financed the program with $110 million. Dr. Clark decided that the way to hasten the improvement of the New York City school systems was to decentralize them. However, this was eventually seen to be as a failed effort, as after the schools were decentralized, they continued with their decline. Dr. Clark came to think of the decentralization experiment as a, quote, disaster, failing to achieve any of the educational objectives that he had sought. Dr. Clark was quoted as saying, "In terms of the basic objective, decentralization did not make a damn bit of difference." Jeru was a joint project run by Adam Clayton Powell, Jr., who was a Harlem congressman at the time. He was also a minister. Dr. Clark co-chaired the committee with Mr. Powell. The two men clashed over the selection of an executive director, and Mr. Powell charged that Dr. Clark stood to profit personally from the control of the program. Dr. Clark denied this and said that Mr. Powell saw the Jeru program mostly in terms of the political power which it gave him. By the 1970s, Dr. Clark was discouraged about the American climate and the lack of integration in the United States. However, Dr. Clark remained an advocate of the integration of American society. He was described as a, quote, incorrigible integrationist, end quote, convinced that integration and the tenets of the civil rights movement should be upheld and pushed forward. In 1989, after many of the political upheaval that he had experienced in the Jeru Project, Dr. Clark authored the book, quote, Dark Ghetto, Dilemmas of the Social Power. After his work with Jeru was sabotaged by the political power plays, Dr. Clark made a statement in his writing. Later in life, Dr. Clark remained displeased at the ascension of blacks in public life. He said that it did not result in real change for regular black people, and that white America admired some accomplished black people, but at the same time felt threatened by the idea of many people of color rising to positions of power. Clark started the MARC Corporation. MARC stood for the Metropolitan Applied Research Center. Its intent was to identify and solve the problems of the urban poor. While Dr. Clark reported that he battled white supremacists and black supremacists alike because he believed that racism was, quote, a racist system inevitably destroys and damages human beings. It brutalizes and dehumans them, white and black alike. Dr. Clark died May 2, 2005, at age 90, at his home in Hastings-on-Houston in New York. Dr. Clark is survived by Miss Harris of Lausanne, Switzerland, and Osprey, Florida, and his son, Hilton B. Clark of Manhattan. He also has 3 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. Dr. Mamie Phipps Clark died in 1983. Dr. Kenneth B. Clark will always be known as a great civil rights leader within the United States and abroad. Dr. Clark's work to help desegregate educational systems, particularly in the New York City school systems, will always be remembered. His influence will be felt many years beyond his passing, and he is much appreciated for the great efforts he made to bring awareness towards racism and the importance of desegregating our society.